Okay, so in 9 hours or so, approximately, you can go to my channel and see the upcoming live stream for tonight. Is an open opportunity, an open panel for especially those that leave lots of comments disagreeing with me. I am encouraging you to come prepared as best you can, have particular arguments and questions with biblical arguments. Prepared would be preferred, or maybe specific claims that I make or the Adventist Church makes regarding the distinctions in the law. That would be the best, for you to bring up something specific I say and then challenge it and show biblical arguments against it or why you have a different view. That would be preferred, but it's going to be open to whatever, and you will be, I'd be happy to afford you time to make a presentation challenging specific things I say or believe. That would be preferred, so it will be on record and can be studied out during and after the live stream. It'll also be open discussion, but I want to give people opportunity to present arguments without being interrupted. So dialogue and opportunity to give a presentation. The more specific you are, the better. That is being afforded to whosoever will may come. So that is planned for this evening. So if for some reason you can't come, we can work out another time again. It's not like it's going to be the only opportunity, but I have time to do this. So I'm affording that opportunity. So the more prepared you are, the more impressed I'll be. And the more helpful it would be. Because at this point, a lot of stuff I feel like I'm getting the same bad arguments from Hebrew roots, in my opinion, just to be honest, regarding things I've argued that I feel like is being ignored. And some of them are really bad arguments, in my opinion. An example would be something like, it says Moedim in Genesis, therefore the feast existed in Genesis. That is, we can talk about that tonight, but that is a terrible argument. It's just not understanding how to interpret the Bible, how word usage is used. Or another bad argument, just to be frank, not that you can't ask the question or that it's not possible, but context depends on it. The word dogma does not have a strict use of meaning something that isn't God's law. That's just not how language works. Context determines what is being talked about. Now, if you want to make a case that a certain ordinances or dogmas aren't necessarily meaning God's laws, you can make that case, but it doesn't. Just because dogma is used to talk about ordinances that are not God's in certain places doesn't mean you get to transfer that into every place that word is used. That's not how word usage works, guys. Just like Moedim doesn't mean you get to import the feast into Genesis. They didn't exist yet. It didn't exist yet. Because it uses the same word. The word means appointed times. Context means, technically that term could be used for any appointed time, appointed by anybody. It's an appointed time. Moedim can mean that. It can mean that. Just like law, the word law in English can mean God's law, Caesar's law, fake laws, true laws. Okay, context tells you what it's being talked about. That can be, of course, challenged on what exactly is being talked about in the context. That's true. But you don't get to, words don't work like that. That's a fallacy. The universalists do this with their certain versions of the Bible where they try to sort of do that sort of thing. It just doesn't. That's not how language works. It's just a kind of an ignorant understanding of how language works, to be frank about it. Like I said, you can argue from the context say, for example, how law is being used or how ordinance is being used in the context to make an argument that what is specifically being said. But the fact that a word means one thing clearly in one place where, say, everybody agrees, okay, those are the laws of Caesar. Okay, so we established that here this word means the laws of Caesar here in this one spot. Therefore, that word used anywhere else has to mean the laws of some law that isn't God's law. No, that's not how it works. It does not work that way. And if you insist that it does, I don't really have anything else to say to you, because it's just wrong. It's just flatly wrong. So there's my examples of bad arguments I've just put out there. So if you can't admit that that's the case, there's not much I can do to help you or to further conversation. Okay. Or like in Hebrews 9. Okay. The ordinance in Hebrews 9 are talking about laws that God implemented in the earthly temple. And then he contrasts that with what Jesus is doing in the heavenly temple, the true tabernacle. If you can't admit this, there's really nowhere to go from there, to be frank about it. If you can't admit that the ordinances being spoken of are divine, it's what it says. So, okay. And then you look at the context, it couldn't be clearer. There are things in the law of Moses that were only until the time of Reformation, things that God implemented. If you can't acknowledge this, we're not going to make any headway. So we'll just have to agree to disagree. But I'm going to be going over that in Hebrews 9, how it's clearly talking about things implemented in the Sinai covenant that are no longer necessary now that Jesus has come. That's what it teaches. Okay. So if you're just set that that's false, what I just said, please bring your best evidence to show something else, because it's really obvious.